In here, in this river, there's salmon, pickerel, pike, muskie, bass, suckers, catfish. Lots of fish in here.
And the other area I would say is from the highway bridge down to the mouth of the Mag River where that one house is. That's another area where we harvest fish in that, and we have a lot of concerns about the state of that right now.
Up the river, on the other side of the bridge, like around that curve. A nice bath hole up there.
But you can still see the old piers up there, and we used to use that for a gauge in the spring there when we used to fish, and the water would come over top the old them piers, and he says, "Uh-oh, there's going to be lots of fish this year. Water's going to be good."
There's good fishing at Miners Lake too.
Yeah.
When the pickerel are spawning, the guys go up 2 foot, 4 foot. I'll go all the way up to Miners Lake.
But now, there's no water. The water has dropped maybe over 3 feet since I've been here.
And we're looking at that there water coming over the falls and all of those things. That has been filtered by those swamps and by those swales up there. And it's coming over and it's returning back to the river. And it's getting oxygen as it hits the rocks and it bounces off the ground and bounces off the earth.
I can't even get my boat up the river now. I used to be able to run right up to 2 foot up there, no problem.
So, and these here falls behind us. They put an awful lot of oxygen in that water. So the more oxygen we have, the healthier fish we have.
Like in the 80s when I first come back here, the water was real high. And when the fish spawned in, then the water was still high. But now we're finding out that water, the fish will come on there, they'll spawn, they'll lay their eggs, and out they'll go, and maybe a week later, that water drops so much that those eggs ain't even underwater anymore. So all that spawn is lost. So we get no little fish, no little fry this year because they're out in the sun baking. They're not under the water.
And the fish, they need the right conditions to reproduce, to lay their eggs and stuff like that. And once that's not there, they don't come in here anymore to spawn. And what we're hearing is from the local fishermen, the non-native, is that the pickerel in them are spawning now out in the shoals out in Georgian Bay.
Magnetawan doesn't mean anything. It's Neme, not a wong. And what that means is that a place of sturgeon.
And they're just like awesome. If you can manage to catch, like to see them, it looks like a great big log rolling out there.
They're still in there.
Still in there?
They're not as big now. No. They're little 4 foot and 5 foot ones. No. I guess back in the day to see the 12 and 14 foot sturgeon was sort of a common occurrence at certain times.
You go up the river here, what you call 2 foot. That's where they spawn in June. And there's a gravel bar before 2 foot too, and that's where they spawn too.
Oh, pickerel's got to be pickerel. But pike's my second favorite, so.
They range from probably about here to about there. We caught some pretty big ones this year, so.
In the springs, pickerel and suckers.
I will take the suckers because some of the elders in the community enjoy that kind of fish.
There used to be a lady here that would pickle them and they would call them salmon.
Suckers are good. You boil them.
And there's this driver on this boat, and there's another friend of mine with him, asking that driver, he said, "Do you have a traditional name?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "What's your name?" He said, "Well, my name is a crow." So that driver says, as we're going along, he said, "Well, what name do you have?" "Well, when I was young," he says, "I was too young." He says, "They didn't give me a chance to name me." He says, and that older guy talks to him. He says, "Well," he says, "I'm going to give you a name." He says, "Because we're pulling suckers out of a net, I'm going to call you Sucker," he told me. So we're riding along home, And that guy says to that older guy, he says, "I'm sorry I asked that question." He said, "Well, I don't really like that name you gave me." He says, And that older guy says to him, well, you gotta take that, you gotta respect me. I'm an old guy. He says, you know, that's your name now.
Rock bass is good eating. A lot of people don't eat rock bass because it's got that much work to clean it, you know, because I mean, they're so small, right?
But we do have muskie. I've seen them catch muskie, and that's good too, but it's a thick fish, and you have to kind of slice it when you cook it.
Bass was no good after July. As soon as the water gets warm, they get wormy. Worms right in there, right inside their hide, inside their meat.
But I used to fish with an elder that would tell me you gotta only figure out how much fish you eat per week, and they're only good for 3 months in your freezer.
They get all soft. You could poke your finger through the flesh after left too long in the freezer.
But there's no use going to catch a whole whack of fish if you can't keep it.
Yeah, I speared a lot on Magnetawan First Nations River here, eh?
I spear. I spear in the spring.
That was my favorite. That was a good sport. The rougher the water, the better it was, you know. And you spear, the faster the water runs. Magnetawan, just down here, was the best place to fish.
The pickerel have a hard time swimming up the rapids, and so they'll gather around in the eddies and in the rocks and catch their breath or like do whatever, right? They rest, and then they'll just do a quick shoot, and they'll swim right up that set of rapids, and they'll keep going up until they find a safe place to spawn their eggs.
Even going like this, then all of a sudden, zoom, he's gone. While he's down there going like this, that's when you spear him because he's not moving anywhere, right? He's getting ready to go up this fast water.
You don't have a lot of time to react to when you see the fish because they'll be swimming up a lot of the time, and so like when you see that tail, you have to move fast. You can't sit there and wait and then second guess yourself.
It's exciting, scary.
You pretty much have to scream at everybody just so everybody hears you, because like all you can hear is the rapids moving. Like it's really fierce. It sounds really nice actually, but it's very dangerous down here.
We usually leave about 9 p.m. because you don't fish till after midnight. You don't spear for pickerel. And then we're usually there till about 3, 4 in the morning.
And then we wake up at like 11 o'clock, and then we have to clean all the fish. And so we all get together, and then we just have a big fish cleaning.
You got to fish in water that's shallow enough that your spear will bottom. When you spear a fish, you can pin them to the bottom. If it's deep and you let it fall, go right in.
You gotta have good balance, and then if you do fall in, you're gone.
Due to my height, my weight, I usually put a metal one together that's maybe not even 10 pounds, but it's about 10 to 12 feet long.
Use both hands on the pole, and you gotta have a light in your mouth.
I can tell you can see the flashlight that somebody lost down here last spring season.
So the moment that you see the lights on the fish, you gotta have a quick jab, and you gotta have an accurate hit so you could get them, eh?
So you're aiming for back of the head here, behind the eyes.
They're shiny underwater. They got red eyes.
You can almost tell the size of the fish you're getting by how far apart their eyes are. The wider apart they are, the bigger the fish. But you don't care. If the eyes are shining, it's a pickerel, and you usually hit it.
Your angle that you're looking, like with your flashlight, you have to aim your spear in that same direction. Otherwise, you'll spear above it or you'll spear below it. Because that flashlight is aiming straight down, and that's exactly where that fish is.
So you gotta keep the light off, shine, keep the light off, shine. You can't constantly shine because they don't like light at all.
Oh, look! He's got the string or something. They're pretty strong. Like if you don't hit them right in their neck, they will survive. Like I've seen lots of fish with spear marks and actually I found one with a spear prong broken out of it in the back of its neck, and it was still alive. There you go. You got yourself a good fish. Blue nose. There's your trophy for the day. First light. Trophy fish. Magnetawan First Nation.
The pickerel season here is like a Mardi Gras for 2 or 3 weeks.
used to be when the smelts ran. We'd have non-native people coming in to go down and net smelts on our shore. And it would be party atmosphere for 2 or 3 weeks. But there was lots of smelts.
I used to go in front of my house and down there with my net and one dip, and I had enough smelts for all I needed. You know, I didn't have to come up to the rapids, say, where all the people were catching the smelts.
In the 70s, boy, you couldn't fill your dip net up. That's how many there was.
This river down here, when the smelts are really thick, they'd be that high above water. When the water churns a bit, they'd be right out of water, you know. And then when the water changes again, they'd float like this, separate, and you look down, there'd be a pickerel sitting there.
At that time, there was, in the spring when there was pickerel, you shine a light, they look like stars. There's just a whole bunch of fish. They just take the one you want.
The pickerel, they were good when I came here. You could get your quota very quick when you went down, but any more you go down there, you could spend a whole night and you're lucky to get 1 or 2.
That's our life. That's our life for us. Like we rely on the river for sustenance in the springtime. Right now we're in the moratorium phase because of the stocks are really low, but we count on that for a livelihood, and that, like, the fish brings people to this area for tourism, sustenance for our own people here. Teaches a lot of qualities to our children, that when we go out to the river, that there's certain roles in that. For example, like this spring we had the moratorium again, but we sent all the men to Port Severn to harvest fish. Well, the man paid all the expenses in that, but the men did that. They took on that role of going out and providing the fish for the tribe. I didn't have to pay anybody. They're taking those roles on themselves. The women are assuming the cultural roles again. They're looking at saying, well, what part of the puzzle am I? And it's happening on its own. Everybody's kind of saying, I'm part of the puzzle. I'm not sure what part, but I want to be a part of it. And it's coming along slowly.